was the one who came here back in 2001. He came for a weekend and ended up staying for 12 and a half weeks. That's why he just said, we got to live together. And when you're living with someone for 12 and a half weeks, that you see only the good. And we had this thing that whoever speaks, the other one always gets a chance to speak afterwards. So we learned from that not to say too much.
Exactly, exactly.
But those were...
We actually got along fine, didn't we?
But those were tremendous times, which I believe took revival fires into a whole new dimension in terms of we'd had Toronto and we'd had just the Father's joy and His presence coming to us, that no matter what we did, God was still for us. And then it moved and it switched over into this incredible demonstration of the Spirit's power.
Yeah. Well, and I remember one of the first nights, a young lady came with multiple sclerosis who was in a drug rehab place or something, and she really got touched and then brought others from that place, and they not only got physically healed but spiritually healed. And I think, and we talked about this a lot during those meetings, but a lot of people, there's a tension between revival and renewal, and you got to have both.
Yes.
You cannot have revival, which to me is, I mean, you can get technical, so revival is reviving us, but when we say revival, we really mean changing the culture out there. You can't do that without having renewal. We got to have those times you wait and you soak and you're in the presence of God. You got to have those times when you have believers meetings where the fire comes place. But that's all for the purpose of not making you feel good, but getting you out.
Yes.
I mean, you see the book of Acts, they kept coming back into the rooms and having these places where the place would shake, the fire would come, but they always took it out. Because they kept moving, and they turned the world upside down. And I think what we saw in a small way in those meetings was a demonstration that, man, we got to have both here.
And we saw people saved.
Yeah, that was so good.
In through the, needing God's touch of healing, and yet we saw many people then getting saved. And during that time, I think, as we started to see things taking place, as quickly as it started, it was like it was over.
Well, it's like the wind, isn't it? It's like a season, and you know. It was the same in Stratford, Ontario. I was there for a couple of months, and it was so good. But I knew the week that
I
it was.
want to talk about that, because you mentioned again, and I know we hear it, but the suddenlies of God, but as you were talking last night about suddenly there was this sound, and you talked about what sound are you hearing? Because there's
you're actually listening, weren't you?
I got it all down here. This is so when you come in the next time you can't preach the same message.
Thank you.
But just talk about those times where the suddenlies, because the newspaper articles, I want you to bring that in too. The newspaper article that you picked up as you were leaving Ottawa. When would it be? 2 days ago.
Yeah, well, this last Sunday night, we had what they called a freak storm. The weather had been great. It's been very hot back there. Do you know what that is like?
No, we don't know what that is in the UK.
No, okay. Well, and dry. I don't know whether you know that.
No.
It's over in the colonies, so it's different. But because it's been so hot, we get thunderstorms and, that on occasion if it gets too hot. But Sunday night, they almost, just the moments before it happened, gave a warning. There's a big storm coming, and it was too late for people to prepare. The headlines were, was it mighty wind, too fast to avoid? I think that was it.
Yeah.
And it actually, they had a big concert going downtown. We had a music festival on, and on the main stage, it collapsed with this wind. They said it was tornado strength winds, only it wasn't circling, it was just blowing. And I was driving home ahead of it. I could see this thing coming, and stuff was flying all over. And Gwen said, my wife said, it sounded like a train. She thought it was a tornado that was coming. And they said, the paper said, the strange thing about this is not that we have storms, but the strange thing was how suddenly it came. And well, I felt like I was somewhat reading the book of Acts, that I believe we're in a season right now, and you can call it the suddenlies, you can call it divine appointments, divine setups, but God has positioned people in places. Some people are wondering, what am I doing here? Why am I here? Am I wasting?
Yes.
And there's no evidence of anything happening. And then wham, it's all done. I mean, in the book of Acts, 10 days in this place, which was a long time, nothing, absolutely nothing.
And
And then wham, and it was done. It was fast. Rushing mighty wind shook the place, fire, and then thousands of people come and get touched.